Hey guys, this is Tony and welcome to lesson 7 of learning C++. I think it's lesson 7. So for this one here, we're going to be going over what is called a for loop. So a for loop is similar to a while loop in the fact that, well, it's a loop. But more importantly, it's that idea that we're going to have a section of code that's going to be repeated multiple times. Based on parameters. So in a while loop, if we go back and look at a while loop, I just wrote out the for loop so you guys can see what it looks like. A while loop looks like this. And so a while loop, you have your while and then the condition. So then you can say something like, if I had a bool, you don't have to type this, I'm just giving an example of what we've already learned. So if we have bool and loop equal true, and if we had loop equal true and we put that into this condition being true, while would loop infinitely, unless we had some sort of counter or something set up. So we could do something like int count equals 0, and then we can have count plus or equals count plus 1, and then if count is equal to 10, then we can have it leave by setting loop to false. So this here will loop through until count is equal to 10. We could say until it is greater than 10. And so we can kind of do this thing here, and this is actually what replicates sort of what a for loop would do, sort of. The way a for loop works is a bit different though. So first off, a for loop, you've got 3 sections. You've got the declaration, so this is I, and I is equal to 0, so we've made a variable for this specific loop. So if we were to try and use I outside of this for loop later on, it would be outside of scope, so we couldn't do something like I equals 0. The I is specifically for this section of code here. I is less than 10, so this is the condition. So as long as the for loop, as long as this statement is still true, it'll keep looping. And then this last one happens every stage. So this one here happens at the very beginning of the for loop. Then what happens is it enters the for loop and executes whatever code, maybe here. So we could have cout I, and then maybe have like a new line character at the end here, and then a semicolon. And then what this will do is it'll go in, make I equal to 0, print out I, then it will come up and execute this third section here, which is plus plus I, which would make I 1, and then it'll check this, and if I is less than 10, then it'll get back in here again. I think that's pretty much it. I'm going to get rid of this code here, and then we'll give this a try and see what happens. Just walk through and get a full understanding of it. So right now I is equal to 0. We walk back out. It's going to check I is less than 10. It finds out I is now 1, prints that, so it'll keep going until I is equal to 10, and once I is equal to 10, it'll stop printing. So right now I is 8, I is 9, I was plus by 10, or plus by 1, and then checked, and it was no longer 10, so it got out of this loop. And so that is pretty much a for loop. It's a bit weird because you got to understand that this section here in the beginning is what it only does that once at the very beginning, and then it basically gets inside, and then it comes back out here, does this whatever operations in here, and then it does this section, which is the check. And if this is as long as this is still true, it'll get back in the for loop and keep going through. And so this is just you can replicate this exact same thing with the while loop, but it works really well for just having like this increment of stat. So like you're basically counting through so many things. So it works really well with array.